Typical. I spent all this time getting all dressed up to look like I'm from Berlin. And obviously, because I film it sitting down, you can't see the whole outfit. There you go. Belly, belt, black jeans. Gold Nikes, you know. Hey there, Poetry Pals. Welcome back to another video. This week, I'll be reviewing Small Machine by Demi. Pretend it's like really strong black coffee. So here's how the review's going to work. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the book, the poet and the publisher. Then I will talk about the collection as a whole, exploring the themes and the structure. And then I will zoom in and talk about the poems themselves, talking about the forms and the writing style, and also telling you my favourite and least favourites. Then I will zoom back out and give you my reading experience recommendations. But before we go any further, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. The engagement really helps small creators like me get found. And my debut poetry collection is published by Verve Poetry Press. It's coming out this week and is available to buy where books are sold. But you should probably buy it through my website because I make more money that way. And you can support the channel by buying me a coffee or joining me on Patreon. Links to all of that can be found in the description down below. So, about the book, the poet and the publisher. Berlin is a place where brazen gods wave to the living, where rock and roll suicides collide with family myths. Small Machine is an intimate portrayal of young womanhood and coming of age in an unforgiving city. The capital known as much for raucous hedonism as it is for Kaffee-und-Kuchen. Falling in love and out in Schillerkiez, clandestine encounters in smoke-filled Kneipen, nighttime dances by the spree, winter depressions weathered, summer lakes plundered, no cobble is left unturned in Demi's soaring debut. So, let me read you her bio. Demi is an Austrian-American writer and performer. Her work has appeared in Magma, Banshee, Ninth Letter, Figure One and The Times UK, as well as on BBC Radio London. She has been a featured performer at Glastonbury Festival, Electric Picnic and the Scottish Storytelling Centre and Poetry Island. After 5 years in Berlin, she now lives in London, where she is completing an MFA at Rose Bruford College of Theatre and Performance. Well, she was when her book was coming out, but I know that she's just finished it. Her work also spans film, photography, music, performance, writing and design as well. She's a multi-talented human. Okay, so let me tell you about her publisher, because this is one we haven't reviewed before. It's published by Write Bloody UK. Write Bloody UK is an independent poetry publishing house, passionate about bringing the voices of the UK poets to the masses. Trailing after Write Bloody Publishing US and Write Bloody North Canada, they are committed to handling the creation, distribution and marketing of all of their authors, binding their words in beautiful, velvety to the touch books and touring loudly with them through UK cities. They are founded by poet and publisher Fern Angel Beattie in 2020, and WB UK's debut collection, What Are We Given? By Ollie O'Neill was released on the 30th of September 2020 and is now home to 10 wonderful poets. Okay, let's talk about the collection as a whole. I would say that Small Machine explores themes of womanhood, coming of age, travel, language, love, loss, personal growth, mental health, and suicidal ideation. On that note, here is your content warning for suicidal ideation. This book as a whole reads like a love letter to Berlin, or at least the story of a romantic relationship with the city, from falling in love to letting go. The structure of the collection supports this theory. The book is split into 3 sections: Arrival, Year of Wandering, and Long Goodbye. Each section is prefaced with quotes from historians, writers, and musicians. all of which add to this sense that Berlin and the time that she spent there were the site of great transformation to the writer. I loved all of the sections, and I think this really works, but my favourite section is the Year of Wandering. It reads like a travel log and contains a lot of self-reflection that I'm really into. But also, as someone who recently went travelling, I enjoyed turning the page and being like, oh hey, I went there! Throughout the collection, there are photographs printed in full page that help like certain moments of the poems really shine. But my favourite is hands down this one, which is a photo of the cat's belly, and it just made me want to stop and scratch it. But I also really like that we had snowfall in a pandemic next to the cat's belly instead of the snowy street that we had earlier. Just because like her little white belly looks like snow and I just want to... Okay, anyway. Overall, the collection takes us through a coming-of-age story, from naivety to something else. Some things change, some things don't. We don't get a sense that the story is over, just the sense that it keeps going. Okay, so let me get into the poems themselves. Form-wise, we have poems ranging from as short and concise as a haiku about porridge to longer spoken word pieces. I really like the way that Demi engages with the page. One thing that's notable and really cool about her writing is that she often uses German in her poetry. And as someone who studied German until I was 17, I enjoy any chance to stretch my linguistic muscles, and I enjoy spending time with the multilingual poems. Don't worry though, if you don't speak German, she does have the translations in the book. And also, Google it. So before I go into my favourite and least favourite poems, I just wanted to note that I love the way that Demi does imagery. There is something in keeping with contemporary American poetry that is piling disparate and beautiful images together to create an entire vibe. And this is something she does excellently in a lot of her poems. Okay, so my least favourite poem is one called Clear. It is this long poem talking to someone where the speaker repeats, just to be clear, and goes on to talk about how they don't care, but also if the subject were to like them back, that would be cool, but whatever. I see what this poem is trying to do, and I imagine this poem would be great performed, but I'm not sure it's living up to its potential on the page. Sometimes I write stuff like this in the review and I think, who the F are you, Josie, to say this, and what the F do you mean by that? So, to go into more detail, here's what I would do to improve the poem, in my opinion. I think the point that is trying to be made in this poem isn't clear enough. I think performed, you can use your tone of voice to show irony and changes in tone, and this works less well on the page. So if I was editing this poem, I would slim it down to its purest component parts and pump up the sense of irony here. I hope you don't mind me saying that, Demi. Please still like me. Okay, shake it off. That's literally the only poem I didn't like. Every single one of them I did enjoy. But on to my favourites. My favourite poem is called A Love Letter to Lou in the Lake. First of all, I love a poem about female friendships, I do. It gives me warm belly feels. But also because I love this moment of the poet trying to find a way of describing her friend's shaved head without being rude. The line, "You'd think I hated you, Lou," brings me so much joy. Like the internal rhyme of you and Lou, just, I don't know, I just like it. It's simple, it's effective, it's nice. But also, I just love swimming in lakes as well, so this poem was a big win for me. Before I move on, I also did want to give special mention to Son of a Fish, which is about a hangover and fathers. I'm not going to quote it here, but that third stanza made me snort/groan in the middle of a coffee shop. I think the exact noise was I wrote in my notebook, "I feel called out. How dare you speak to me like that, Demi?" Like, seriously, what the hell? That poem called me out so bad. It's rude, actually. But also, Demi, if you ever want to go for a drink and discuss that in more detail, I'd be down. So, Speaking of coffee shops, this brings me to my reading experience recommendations. First of all, this collection's pretty long. The last poem is on page 117. So I'd suggest splitting the poem into the 3 sections and reading each one on separate days. You should also read this book with coffee and cake. It's literally mentioned in the blurb. Kaffee-und-Kuchen means coffee and cake. I suggest using each section as an excuse to try out a new coffee shop. And when you're picking a coffee shop, you really need that like cool and hipster vibe. I'm thinking unvarnished wood. No, of course they don't offer vanilla syrup in their coffees. They're far too cool for that. If you do want to go for the true Berlin experience, it should be a strong black coffee. But if, like me, you prefer a vanilla latte, I'm not going to judge you. Also, I think a good listening soundtrack would be like jazz-inspired lo-fi beats. I'll link to my favourite in the description. So, in conclusion, you will like this book if you like Taylor Swift's later stuff. If you are a woman in your mid to late 20s who's trying to figure out this thing we call life, if you love travel, if you have an interest in language, and if you have good taste. Needless to say, I loved it, and I will link to where you can buy this book in the description down below. So, my questions to you are, if you have read this book, tell me what you think. If you haven't read this book, will you read it based on my review? And finally, who should I review next? Let me know in the comments down below. So that's it for this week's video. Please make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications. It really helps small creators like me get found. My debut poetry collection, Faulty Manufacturing, is out this week and is available to buy. You can also support me by following me on social media. I am at Josie Alford Poet on all the things. And you can support the channel with your wallet by buying me a coffee or joining me on Patreon, where you can watch my book launch. The links to do all of those things are in the description down below. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you all next week. Bye!